There is one shift you can make that will change everything in your classroom. And when I say everything, I mean all the areas that we want our students to improve: behavior, work habits, politeness, motivation. Every area that you want your students to improve can and will improve greatly if you make this one shift. However, I want to mention that it's a shift in a particular direction that the educational establishment, leaders, administrators, trainers, experts, all these people are pushing you in the opposite direction. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and how if you make this move, it's going to change everything. And I guarantee it, I promise you, this is an absolute game changer. Before we get there, please do me a favor and subscribe to this channel. I would really appreciate it. Now, when I visit classrooms, I visit a lot of classrooms, and I'm sure that you see this yourself. Maybe when you see other teachers, or maybe you're feeling it yourself. Teachers these days have the weight of the world on their shoulders, and especially when observing teachers in action, you can see the stress on their face. You can see the pressure and burden they're carrying around with them as they run around the classroom, talking to students, encouraging students, talking them through every this and that, narrating for students, running around, kneeling down and helping individual students. This sort of thing goes on all day with the teacher talking all day long. And when you look at the students, they don't seem to have a care in the world. In fact, they're ignoring most of what's going on in the classroom. They're daydreaming, misbehaving, talking to each other, this sort of thing. And then as teachers, we wonder, well, why don't the students care? And kids these days, they don't care. But when you make this shift, again, it's going to change everything, and it's going to cause those students to care. So what is this shift? Well, the shift is taking all of that responsibility that you're feeling, all that responsibility you're carrying around with you, and you're going to shift it as much as you possibly can onto the shoulders of your students. So the shift, one shift is in responsibility. Responsibility. And I'm going to show you the three areas of your classroom. So I'm going to give you some specifics on how to actually do this and the importance of one particular thing that's the key to making sure that this happens. But when students have responsibility, they do better. When they have purpose throughout the whole day, when they have goals and something to accomplish, something on their mind that they must do, that they are responsible for doing by themselves, they do much, much better. They care more, and they're much happier. They do better. The achievement is higher. They're more motivated. All good things in every area of your classroom. They'll do better if they have more responsibility. The good news is that you're taking a lot of this burden off your plate, which frees you in turn to teach better lessons, to focus on your responsibilities as a teacher, which are not as great as you probably think they are. So they're not as big. Your big responsibility is to teach great lessons. But listening, learning, behaving, and everything associated with that, you have to dump on your students and stop taking responsibility for it emotionally and otherwise. Some of this responsibility is your emotional responsibility. It's not your job to care about a lot of the stuff that you are carrying about and carrying on your shoulders. It's not your responsibility to walk every student through every step of their school day. Again, we're going to talk about exactly how to do this in 3 areas. The first area is independent work. Independent work. Here at Smart Classroom Management, we believe in students doing a lot of work throughout the day. The more time they're spent on tasks, the better they're going to do. The higher their test scores, the more achievement, the more progress they're going to do. In this day and age, teachers are doing too much, students aren't doing enough. And so we really want to shift, when it's time for independent work, we want to shift 100% of the responsibility over to students. So you're teaching a lesson, whatever your objective is, whatever you want your students to do in order to prove their understanding, whether it's with a writing assignment or math assignment, science experiment, whatever it is, you're going to shift in total the responsibility over to them. That means full independence, 100% independence, which means you're not going to talk them through it. It's not guided practice. It's not guided work. It's independent work. They're going to be doing it all by themselves. And your job is to prepare them for it. We're going to talk about how to do that in this key down here. But the idea is that after your lesson, after you check for understanding, then it's all shifted to them entirely. So many wonderful things happen when you do this. And we're transparent at Smart Classroom Management. We believe in letting students know, hey, this is you. This is what independence looks like. It is not with the teacher. So we teach them this. We teach them not to rely on the teacher, which, again, nowadays, teachers, they send students off to work independently, hands go up all over the room. The teacher runs around helping, essentially telling those students, hey, look, you don't have to listen during lessons because I'm going to reteach it to each one of you individually anyway. It's a form of learned helplessness is what we're doing with these kids. And they don't like it, and their maturity level drops. Again, with this shift, everything improves, including their maturity, including their level of independence and how long they can work independently. These are all things that we push the envelope on. We push the improvement on their time on task, all these things. But you have to be able to shift responsibility totally to the students to do the work, to solve for X, to write the essay without your help. So you need to be very reluctant to help students. Now, this might prompt some questions about how to do this. So this is a topic we'll cover in detail in the future. It's also a topic we've written about extensively at smartclassroommanagement.com, so you can go there and look up those articles. There's a search function that works really well. But you must shift responsibility and let them work completely. Your only job is to observe from a distance. You're not going to sit at your desk and prepare anything, and you're not going to be looking right over shoulders. Yes, you do want to see that they're doing. You're going to town, so to speak, on what you're going to talk about in the future and how they can improve and all those things, of course. But this is a time where you're silent and they're silent. Independent work also includes group work. Includes group work. So anytime you're shifting over for them to do something, it's in full. Next area, routines. Really any expectation that you want them to do. Anything you want your students to do on their own, you teach them well and then you let them do it. So entering the classroom, picking up art materials, getting out laptops, putting away library books, whatever it is, anything and everything students can do on their own, they need to do on their own. You turn those moments, those things into a routine. All you do is give your go signal to begin that routine, and they do it 100% on their own. Okay? Now, there might be questions about accountability with this and how to teach routines in the most effective way. And again, we have lots on this topic at the website. We will discuss routines a lot more in the future, but just know you teach your routine, and then the expectation is the students do it all on their own without your narrating, without your reminding, none of this kind of thing. Now, this doesn't mean that if the routine is done poorly, you may not ask them to do it over again. You might. That's something you might do, and again, a topic for the future. Number 3 is, this is a big one, enforcing consequences. So, we believe strongly I'm trying to concentrate because the previous video I misspelled a word. But enforcing consequences, we believe strongly in a classroom management plan at Smart Classroom Management, which is simply a set of rules and consequences that protect learning and enjoying school for your students. But when we enforce consequences, the way you shift responsibility is to follow your plan as it's written and as you taught in detail. And that's kind of sort of a hint of where we're going. But so you inform the student of a consequence, and then that's it. You don't say anything to the student. We don't pull students aside to question them or to lecture them or to tell them what to think or how they should feel. We don't counsel them. We don't ask what the problem is or anything like that. Because essentially what we're doing when we show it gets under our skin, and also we don't react emotionally to it. We don't give our 2 cents. We don't say anything because the responsibility for reflecting on that misbehavior falls completely on the student's shoulders. And the more we involve ourselves, the more we're pulling the responsibility off of them and onto us. Emotionally also, you must not give a whit if a student if you're enforcing a consequence and if they misbehave. You must care deeply enough to do the right thing, however, which means that you allow the student on their own to process what they did wrong, the mistake that they made. Now, there are ways to ensure that they do that. And again, we have written about this topic extensively. There are almost 900 articles on the website now. We have 8 books that all go through all the kind of details, and we will cover the details on how to enforce consequences in a future video and how to make them matter to students. But this is a big one in getting students to behave, is that they reflect entirely on their own. Because if you involve yourself, you're removing their own thoughts, which allow them to choose of their own accord not to misbehave anymore. This is where change happens. It doesn't come from your lectures. It comes when they decide. So we're going to set up conditions to make it where they want to do that. They don't want to misbehave anymore, and they want to be part of the classroom. This is part of creating those conditions. The lesson is that everything you do in your classroom that is student responsibility, you have to let them do it completely. You just prepare them for it. You give them the tools to be successful, and then you allow them to do it. You allow the natural consequences to take place. That includes grades, it includes their homework, and whatever it is, whatever your policies are, you have to let those things do the work. Again, because the more responsibility they feel, the more we set them up with goals and purpose for them to do without our interference, the more they like it, the better they feel, the more mature they become, the more self-worth, and the more independent, higher achievement, all of these things. And this is very countercultural in education right now because it's really the opposite. You're being told that you've got to run around and help all these kids, and that you should narrate, and that you should catch students being good, and all this kind of stuff that just sabotages good classroom and good classroom behavior, motivation, work habits. The key to all this is you preparing your students through detailed teaching. So this is your burden, is to make sure that those students have the tools to successfully work by themselves, to do the routines as a class without your help, to know exactly what to do and how they should think on their own, like the whole process, if you send them to timeout. So if they reach the second consequence or whatever your consequences are, there needs to be no question what's expected of them. So you teach this in detail. There can be no question about any of these things each time before you give your signal for them to do this stuff on their own. You need to prepare them well for it. You need to take questions and model and have the students model and make sure they have everything they need and they don't need you anymore. This is the key. And so all day long, every day, from transition to transition, you're making sure that they are prepared. Routines, they should, once they know them and they've learned it, then you don't need to do this again and again. And same with most of your transitions, which are actually routines in and of themselves. But the idea here and the big takeaway is anything and everything that you can shift from you to them, you need to do so. Shift responsibility on their shoulders, and then you take on responsibility of great teaching, which is what we got into teaching for, is to enjoy our subject matter and to focus on all the cool stuff and the great stories that we tell, and to draw students into our lessons. All that kind of stuff is what you should be focused on. So start slowly, shifting more and more responsibility, and every incremental amount that you shift onto them, they're going to improve in every area. Okay, I hope this video helps, and I hope you're having a great week. See you next time.